Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Tribble Timewarp. It is the 12th of June and this is the revised no-win scenario, which I am happy to report is finally living up to its name. Literally, nobody that I know of has yet beaten this. Sad Pandas are, I believe, up to level 8, possibly level 9. Nobody has yet made level 10. Nobody has yet won it, which frankly is as it should be. I clearly wasn't the only person who thought that the original version of this scenario was far too easy for something that was supposed to be impossible, or at least nearly impossible, to beat. So, the changes. Well, the most basic one is that the two nebulae that were murdering frame rates and whiting out a significant chunk of the background are now gone, so that problem is solved in the simplest way possible. The waves in general have been toughened up. If you think in terms of wave 3, possibly 4 of the original scenario, that's now basically wave 1. The real problem, however, is a new mob type that's been introduced to the scenario, the Bioneural Warhead Turret platform, which you can see in the background there. This begins to appear in wave 4 and carry on increasing in number all the way up to wave 10. I believe Goza said that in the final wave you have 4 of these platforms, each of which are potentially salvoing up to 4 warheads at a time at you. These warheads are vicious. They have an anti-proton turret system, as does the platform, which, as you can see there, just gutted out 2 shield facings and a third of my hull in under 10 seconds without even trying. That is the least of your problems, because if those warheads hit you, you're basically dead. 2 warheads will kill the freighter if it doesn't get repairs. 1 warhead will most likely kill you on a direct impact. You might possibly survive if you are very lucky. And of course, if you do die, bear in mind that the death timer no longer resets. First time you die it's 15 seconds, second time it's 30, third 45, and so on and so forth. Used to be the case that if you could go without dying for 2 minutes, that reset to 15 seconds. It doesn't do that anymore. The more you die, the longer you're going to be out of the fight, the more of a beating your teammates and the freighter are going to take, the more likely things are to go horribly, horribly wrong. Essentially, this is disaster dominoes in action. The more you die, the more you will. Tactically, there are 2 approaches you can take here. One is to maintain a point defense setup, whereby you let the warheads come in, you don't try to go for the platforms, and you hope you can kill the warheads plus the attacking ships and leave the platforms to auto-destruct once the wave is cleared. The other approach, of course, is to detach off a couple of ships, probably escorts if you've got them, and set them to essentially kill off the platforms. This is basically going to require reverse shield polarity, rapid fire, high yields, attack pattern alpha, every defensive and damage boosting cooldown you could think of, and even then I'm not sure it's going to work. The platform shields are downable, they're not too hard, but the hull strength of the platform might be a problem. I haven't actually had a chance to try this yet. Tribble's population is so low that it's virtually impossible to try and get a pug going on the server right now. There's also the tactical problem, of course, that if you detach 2 ships off to deal with the warhead platforms, you leave yourself with only 3 ships to fight a delaying action at the freighter. Now that's not necessarily impossible, particularly if you take an approach of looping out to deal with a platform, looping back, clearing a few ships, looping out again to deal with a second platform, looping back, helping deal with a couple of ships attacking, and so on and so forth. But at higher levels, when there are even more ships than this going for the freighter, I think it could turn into an issue. And that warhead just hit me for 122,000. Ladies and gentlemen, let the good times roll for somebody. If you're not too familiar with STO's setup, let's just say that even the heaviest player ships tend to cap out at around 60,000 hit points, and the lighter ones like the escorts and the intrepid science vessels tend to have no more than 30 to 35,000, so yeah, you can do the numbers. As far as improving this mission goes, I think there are maybe 3 tweaks that I would make. The The first one is simply to add a status window for the civilian transport. You can see here that from another angle, if I was below the fighting at the moment, it would be very hard to get a target lock onto the transport to either check its status or to start landing heals on it. You can argue that maybe that's part of the difficulty, but I'm not necessarily sure it would be justified. While there's a grand tradition of messing with the player's interface as part of the game's difficulty, or indeed any game's difficulty, witness Arkham Asylum, where at one point it faked out a system crash on you. Star Trek Online doesn't really do that outside of perhaps Nebulae, and it doesn't really make sense in this scenario, whereby you can imagine ordering a tactical ensign or a bridge officer just to keep a floating target lock on the transport, keep half an eye on it, and yell if it starts taking a beating. So something along the lines of the team display would be very, very useful to have, and also fairly justifiable within the game. The second change that I would make is to tweak the AI on the bioneural warheads so that it only fires the turret at something that has fired on it first. Now, at the moment, the warheads will engage everything. They are essentially hoovering the players out of the way. Indeed, I think right now those warheads are doing more to kill us off than the actual Gorn are, which is a little bit disturbing if you ask me. I don't mind the turrets being really, really powerful, but when they're also being used offensively like this, then it's a bit of a problem. What I would do is essentially rewire the warheads so they will only fire the turrets at something that has fired on them. And I would also tweak it so that the damage on the turrets is such that if you don't kill a warhead off very, very quickly once you start firing at it, it will shred you in very, very short order. So in essence, if you simply happen to blunder along with Fire at Will 1 and think, oh, I can pew-pew these down in between whiles, no, you can't. They will kill you very quickly. Change number 3, if it hasn't been done already, fix the scimitars. Okay, thanks, bye. See my last video if you want an explanation as to why I think those are right now going to be very, very bad for the mission if they are left in. So, overall, we have a mission that right now is in a very happy place. It is really, really unashamedly hard. It is going to be a challenge for even the most elite space players, and that is, frankly, as it should be. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are going to play this scenario when it hits holodeck, be prepared to play with the big boys. That's really all I'm going to say on the matter. Hopefully it will stay this way and Cryptic will not listen to those who are calling for nerfs. And so, having blown up the bridge simulator yet again, there is nothing more to say in this episode of the Tribble Timewarp. Ladies, gentlemen and makos alike, I will see you next time.